there certainly can be that risk, and we're having a conversation in New Zealand right now whether we are relying too much on carbon dioxide removal by planting more trees, and whether that is in fact distracting from the necessary decarbonization of the energy system, of our transport system in particular. So it can occur, but it very much depends on the policy framework, on the incentives that you provide for achieving carbon dioxide removal, and whether they enable this mitigation deterrence, if you like. Many countries that are beginning to engage with carbon dioxide removal as part of their climate policies, because they have realized they do need it as part of achieving their own pledged net zero targets. Many countries take quite a different policy approach for how they incentivize carbon dioxide removal as compared to how they might, say, price CO2 emissions as part of an emissions trading scheme or carbon tax. So there are lots of policy options where governments can act as regulators of the incentive level for carbon dioxide removal and keep a separate incentive instrument in place to achieve carbon dioxide reductions from fossil activities. So the deterrence is not a necessary thing from a policy perspective, but really is a question of how do you design your policies. Do you make the emissions equal one for one? One removal is the same as one emission, just with an opposite sign, or do you provide different policy instruments? And that's something where countries undergo their own learning curve. They have different starting points, and eventually, so those countries that have been more cautious with supporting carbon dioxide removal will have to ramp up their policy support in order to achieve the scale of removal that they need. Whereas other countries like New Zealand that have historically treated carbon dioxide removal via forestry as exactly equivalent but opposite to carbon dioxide emissions are now engaging in a conversation about whether they have to dial that back because of the inadvertent consequences of over-reliance on that and negative consequences of land use change into forestry that in hindsight may not have been the best use of that land with an intergenerational perspective.